May 1940, L'Épinette, France. A British officer gives the signal to attack a German patrol. But instead of the crack of a rifle, his men hear the twang of a longbow. An arrow flies across the battlefield and strikes a German Feldwebel in the chest, killing him instantly. It is the only confirmed longbow kill of World War II. The man who fired that shot was Lieutenant Colonel Jack Churchill. And he wasn't just carrying a bow. He was also armed with a basket-hilted Scottish broadsword. In an age of machine guns, tanks, and airplanes, one man went to war equipped like a medieval knight. His personal motto, "Any officer who goes into action without his sword is improperly dressed." This is the story of Mad Jack Churchill, the most eccentric and arguably one of the toughest soldiers of the entire war. Welcome to WW2 War Files. Today's story is about a man so unique he seems like a character from a fantasy novel. But every part of his story is true. John Malcolm Thorpe Fleming Churchill, or Jack, was born in 1906 into a family with a long history of military service. But Jack was different. He was an adventurer, an athlete, and a showman. In his youth, he represented Great Britain in the World Archery Championships in 1939. He was a master piper who won second place in a prestigious bagpiping competition. He even had a small role in the 1924 film The Thief of Baghdad because of his archery and bagpiping skills. When Britain declared war on Germany, Jack was working as a newspaper editor in Kenya. He immediately returned to England to rejoin the army. And he brought his unconventional weapons with him. To Jack, the sword and bow weren't just for show. He believed they were genuinely effective weapons. The sword was terrifying in close-quarters combat, and the silent flight of an arrow was a weapon of psychological terror. His superiors thought he was insane, but his sheer confidence and competence were undeniable. They let him carry his weapons. His first major action was during the retreat to Dunkirk in 1940. As his unit, the Manchester Regiment, ambushed a German patrol, Jack gave the signal to attack by shooting a German sergeant with his longbow. This single act cemented his legend. After being evacuated from Dunkirk, he signed up for the Commandos, Britain's newly formed elite fighting force. For Jack, the high-risk, high-adventure nature of the Commandos was a perfect fit. It was here that his legend would truly be forged in fire and steel. In July 1943, Jack was second in command of No. 2 Commando, tasked with capturing a German observation post in Salerno, Italy. The post, located in the town of Pigoletti, controlled a vital pass. Under the cover of darkness, Jack led his commandos forward. He was armed with his signature broadsword, a pistol, and his bagpipes. As they crept towards the German positions, Jack and his men were spotted. The night erupted in machine gun fire. Instead of taking cover, Jack did the unexpected. He drew his massive sword, yelled, "Commando!" at the top of his lungs, and charged headlong into the enemy position. His men, inspired by this act of insane bravery, followed him screaming. The German defenders, confronted by a wild-eyed Scotsman with a giant sword appearing out of the darkness, were so terrified that many of them surrendered on the spot. Jack and his men took the town. But his night wasn't over. With only one other soldier, a corporal named Ruffle, Jack decided to clear out the remaining German positions in the town. Moving from house to house in the dark, Jack used his sword as his primary weapon. He would kick in a door, rush in with his sword held high, and the terrified German soldiers inside would immediately drop their weapons. By the end of the night, Jack Churchill and Corporal Ruffle had single-handedly captured 42 German soldiers and a mortar crew. When he returned to his company with a line of 42 prisoners, he was asked how he did it. He casually remarked that he had a sword. His reputation as Mad Jack was now legendary. He was a force of nature on the battlefield, A warrior from another time, leading his men with a sword in one hand and often his bagpipes in the other, playing "Will Ye No Come Back Again" as he marched into battle. In 1944, Jack was sent to lead the Commandos in Yugoslavia, supporting the partisans led by Josip Broz Tito. His mission was to raid the German-held island of Brač. During the assault, a mortar shell exploded nearby, killing or wounding everyone in his unit except him. He was knocked unconscious by the blast. When he awoke, he was surrounded by German soldiers. He reportedly started playing his bagpipes before he was finally captured. Because his name was Churchill, the Germans mistakenly believed he was related to Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Thinking they had a high-value prisoner, they flew him to Berlin for interrogation. He was then sent to the Sachsenhausen concentration camp. But you can't keep Mad Jack in a cage. In September 1944, he and another officer crawled under a wire fence, through an abandoned drain, and escaped the camp. They were recaptured just a few days later, near the coastal city of Rostock. As punishment, he was transferred to a supposedly more secure POW camp in Austria. In April 1945, as the camp's administration fell into chaos with the war ending, Jack saw another opportunity. He simply walked out of the camp and began walking south. He walked for 8 days, covering 150 miles across the Alps, surviving on onions he found in abandoned gardens. He was eventually found by American forces in Italy, who were stunned to find a British officer walking towards them from enemy territory. He was sent back to England, but was disappointed to find that the war in Europe was over. Desperate to get back into the fight, he was sent to Burma to face the Japanese. By the time he arrived, however, the atomic bombs had been dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the war was officially over. Jack Churchill's reaction was one of pure frustration. He famously complained, "If it wasn't for those damn Yanks, we could have kept the war going another 10 years." With no more wars to fight, Jack Churchill had to find a new outlet for his adventurous spirit. He qualified as a parachutist at age 40. He served in the British Mandate of Palestine, and then he moved to Australia, where he took up a new hobby, surfing. He became a passionate and skilled surfer, known for his eccentric style on the board. After retiring from the Army, he returned to England, where he spent his final years sailing coal-fired steamboats on the Thames and building radio-controlled model warships. Jack Churchill died in 1996, at the age of 89. He was a true original, a man who lived by his own code. He fought a modern war with ancient weapons, not because he was insane, but because he believed in the power of courage, audacity, and a damn good show. He was Mad Jack, the legend who proved that in the heart of the 20th century, there was still room for a knight with a sword. Thank you for watching WW2 War Files. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more. And leave a comment. What is the most Mad Jack thing you've ever heard of?